All right, everybody. I am back. Colin McTamany of Fantrax. I just had Jagger May of Football Guys on to talk about NFL news and notes. And now I'm live with Eric Froton to talk about the rookie class, incoming rookie class. That's what everyone wants to know, who the studs are, who the duds are. So we are going to dive right in here. Quick introduction on my guest here, Eric Froton, lead college fantasy football analyst, or football analyst, I should say, of NBC Sports and RotoWorld. He's also the Fantasy Sports Writer Association's 2020 and recently just named 2023 College Sports Writer of the Year. That is Eric Froton. Eric, you were at the Senior Bowl. You were at the NFL Combine. You are heavily invested in this rookie class and college football, in general. So it's safe to say I'm talking to, I would say, an expert of this 2024 class.
I feel pretty good about it. Thank you very much for the intro. I have, because I am not as much of an NFL fantasy guy, the draft is more of a graduation as opposed to an introduction for me, and then I moved back to the 134 D1A college teams, which, hey, look, that's 134 teams that every single year, everything resets. There's not like guys are under contract. You don't know what's happening. Every team you have to go through and relearn everything that's happening, all the player movement, all the transfer portal stuff. So it is so much that I apologize. I just can't swim in the NFL landscape, during the season in the same way because of my obligations on the college side. And hey, at the end of the day, I've hit 67% plus for the past 4 years, each of the past 4 years. In college football props. So my focus is making sure that I make you guys money. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for, and have fun with fantasy. But, part of fun is winning. So that's what I try to do.
And that's what we're trying to do with our fantasy football teams. And obviously there are plenty of dynasty fantasy football managers out there that want to get their piece of this 2024 class. And if you play in Superflex dynasty leagues, especially, it's all about the quarterbacks. The top picks are going to be quarterbacks. We know that at this point, the top picks in the NFL draft are likely going to be quarterbacks. Is it safe to say at this point, based on everything Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, in some order, are a lock to be the top 3 quarterbacks off the board?
A lock?
What are
we talking a lock? Yeah. I'd say 85% is pretty good.
You know what? Then I'm just gonna ask the question. Then
good about it. I could see JJ.
That's okay.
Sneaking in.
So is he QB4?
A little bit.
He's QB4.
Clearly QB4.
Okay. So we have the possibility of JJ McCarthy sneaking into the top 3 quarterbacks off the board. So who would be the odd man out at that point? Would it be May, Jaden Daniels?
For my opinion, I might slide him ahead of Daniels, but man, I think it's pretty close between the 4. I think JJ's kind of moved his way into that class, and it could be a case of perception because there's so many teams that need QBs in that top 15 that, it's kind of maybe artificially blowing him up the boards a little bit in some ways, but you're hearing all the smoke and, Minnesota, Denver, Las Vegas, possibly the Giants, Atlanta. I mean, all of them would love to be in the position to be able to take him. So when you have that sort of a bidding war, I think it creates a perception thing. But if he stood in front of someone, maybe it would be May. Even though May's my QB2, I feel like everything I'm hearing from when I was at the Combine, Jaden Daniels, seems to be the QB2 right now. So if he were to come in, I would think maybe the sort of rawness of Drake May might cause him to slip a little bit and have the more, I guess, potentially projectable JJ McCarthy. You came in 20 pounds over.
Yeah.
What do you expect it to be at the Combine?
Yeah, I think a lot of people expect him to be around 200 pounds. And like you said, he came in much heavier than that. So, before we get into the fantasy aspect of these quarterbacks, if there is a change in the order here, what team is most likely to trade up to get one of these guys? If you think perhaps the Patriots or even the Commanders, I don't think Commanders, but if you think maybe one of these teams trades out, who do you think is most likely to trade up? Because that's what everyone's wondering. feels like we're all just kind of waiting to see, if someone's going to make a big move to jump into the third spot and grab one of these guys. Which team do you think that would be?
If we're talking about trading up to the third spot.
Yeah, I guess there could be a trade back into the top 10. Yeah.
Probably Atlanta for this year. Of course, Atlanta could just sit there at 8 and be like, "Hey, we're gonna play the board and see what comes to us." So that's the thing. I would think it would have to be Denver or Las Vegas. I mean, Las Vegas is kind of. I mean, they are the gunslingers. They have their own way of doing things. The Davises. So I could see them being bold and saying, "We will do what it takes to get what we feel like we need." Post Garoppolo. So I'll go with the Raiders.
Yeah, it feels like financially at this point, they should be trying to start over. Obviously, the Jimmy G Band-Aid to the Derek Carr divorce was not quite the answer they were looking for there. So from a fantasy football perspective, these guys are transitioning to the NFL. Who do you think presents the most start-worthy value? If it's chalky and it's Caleb Williams, that's fine. Just trying to get an idea of who people should be targeting, not only for 2024, but maybe even the best long-term investment too for dynasty purposes.
2024, landing spot will be somewhat dependent, but probably in the short term for me would be Daniels.
Okay.
But
is that a rushing thing?
He's 5 years in.
Okay.
So it's not going to be May's, it's year 3 for him. He's going to probably need a little bit more acculturation. Whereas you have the 5 years of Daniels and obviously 3 years of Caleb too, even though he's further along, than May in terms of a complete, package. But because of that 5 years and you throw in the rushing, I would say Daniels. However, that is with the caveat that I 100% am the most concerned about Daniels because of, one, his frame, his structure, and two, just the reckless abandon with which he runs into tackles. I mean, we've seen him literally get spine busted, like not once, a couple times. He's getting just pile driver into the turf, and that's it's dangerous enough in college with the wide open running lanes that you get that are created in college just for the difference in athleticism between Daniels and everyone else on the field, even though he's in the SEC. But there's the RG3 thing that I just can't stop thinking about with him. I just see it.
Yeah.
And I see, he could do pretty well. He could be able to run for a little bit. He's going to be putting himself into harm's way. And at the same time, a very important metric with him, which I'm not saying you can't get better at it, but it's year 5. That's the thing, is like you can project growth with Williams and May in a way that I don't think you can with Daniels, age-wise, and 4 mediocre years before a big one. His passing rate went off the script. Was very concerning to me. Because when he breaks pocket, sometimes he's, there isn't even a rush. It's just he'll get the internal clock, and he isn't pressured where he could stick a little longer, and he just bails. But more so when he's flushed and when he's running parallel to the line and he's, searching downfield and he's doing his thing. You need to be able to reset your eyes, keep downfield, keep focused, see everything, in frame, and be able to deliver the ball on that roll accurately in the NFL. You have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He only threw the ball when off platform. So he goes and, he sets up and then he runs 20% of the time. Think about how many times he broke the pocket.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, he had 90 explosive plays. That's the most in SEC history, or, pretty close to it. He broke Burrow's record by a lot. A lot of those are running plays.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that's because you've got a lot of real estate in front of you that's not going to be available to you in the NFL in the same way, and you're going to have smaller windows. If you're not resetting your eyes, you're asking for it.
Yeah.
To illustrate that, he only threw 19 passes all season off script. 19. He completed 9 of them. 9 completions all season?
Yeah.
That's wild to me. And NFL average is 57%. So that's what I see with Daniels. It really concerns me on the long term, but short term, he's got the dynamic athletic ability and he throws a really nice deep ball.
Yeah, it just feels like a lot of people are going to be, craving that rushing upside that he has for fantasy football. And of course, he had Malik Neighbors. He had Brian Thomas Jr. there as well. So hopefully he can slide into a team with as talented, if not more talented weapons. Because like you said, I am a little concerned if he ends up somewhere that maybe doesn't have the best weapons, that he could struggle. And we saw that last year a little bit with Bryce Young down in Carolina. They didn't really surround him with the pieces to succeed. So we have talked about 4 quarterbacks here going inside perhaps the top 12 or so. Do you think there's any other quarterbacks that make the cut on Thursday night first round NFL draft? And if so, who is that?
It would be Penix for me.
Okay.
It does. I could see him slipping in the back. In other words, like somebody does what happened essentially to Will Levis last year.
Yeah.
He falls out of the first round. He's down in the second. Titans trade up with Arizona. Arizona moves back, takes Ojulari, and they come up to take Levis. And Arizona just continues. That pick that they traded to the Titans was the pick they got from Houston. So they continue to just compound that interest on that trade. Like I love the way Arizona's approaching that rebuild. I mean, it's the Sam Presti way of doing things where they didn't even lose Kyle. He was just injured, and it's like they leveraged it. They're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, I actually really like the Arizona rebuild as well. It could come at the right time too, as San Francisco and Los Angeles, seemingly, take a step back, in the next couple of years here, the way they need to rebuild and reset, given how their contract structures are. So we have Michael Penix perhaps going in the first round. We have Bo Nix, Michael Pratt, Spencer Rattler, Joe Milton, Sam Hartman as other notable guys here, going in various spots in this NFL draft. Anyone that you think is getting overlooked right now that we really shouldn't be overlooking? We see quarterbacks all the time go third, fourth, later rounds that end up having good NFL careers. Who would be that one or maybe the 2 guys there that you think could do that depending on where they go?
Well, I feel like the list we have, Penix, Nix, Pratt, Rattler, Milton, Hartman, that we kind of talked about here on the sheet. I feel like those are all pretty well, like you know what you're getting out of these guys. They're
right.
I know what Rattler is, dad bod and all with that 40, looked uncomfortable. I don't know why he ran the 40.
Yeah.
Joe Milton is Bazooka Joe. You know what it is. Gigantic arm. Good luck having that guy running offense. He's failed everywhere he's gone. You turned Tennessee. Josh Heupel. Okay, Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel was the head coach over at UCF. Is a former Heisman Trophy winner for Oklahoma. Was the Oklahoma OC. Goes over, takes over Tennessee, and makes Hendon Hooker into SEC Jesus. So in comes Joe Milton. He turns that Tennessee offense that was racking up 40 points a game like it was nothing. Made Jalen Hyatt look like Randy Moss, that offense. And he turned it into a 3-way backfield dance between Dylan Sampson, Jabari Small, and Jalen Wright, who will be prominently featured.
Yeah.
And he was barely cracking 200 yards passing a game. You have to try to do that in Josh Heupel's offense. So, I mean, good luck. I don't know how that happens with Joe Milton, but good luck. If I had to pick one, though, especially based on the combine, probably Devin Leary in terms of a sleeper. These guys, I don't know, they aren't really sleepers. Sam Hartman would be because of the hair. But Devin Leary looked pretty damn good at the combine. I mean, accurate, good balance. He doesn't have a huge arm, but everything he was doing was, it was his lower half was channeled. It was a better version of Devin Leary than we saw this year. It was more what we saw from 2021 when he was at NC State and under he was dominant. He was awesome at NC State, but then he wanted to go to the SEC and Kentucky, and Liam Cohen comes back to be the offensive coordinator after he left to go to the Rams, came back, which is a weird thing because he was Levis, then he left it. First year Levis, he was there, then he left. Last year Levis, now he's back, and then he's gone again. So Devin Leary.
Yeah, so Devin Leary may be a guy that, fantasy managers in those 4th round dynasty drafts could target. You have Joe Milton's arm, you have Sam Hartman's hair. Maybe Devin Leary is just hiding behind those two, using them as meat shields, and could be a little bit of a sleeper here.
I like the idea. I like your theologizing.
We'll move on here to the wide receivers, because I personally expect, as many do, a wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe you've heard of his dad, to go inside the top 5 here in the NFL draft amongst these quarterbacks. I don't think we need to spend too much time on Marvin Harrison Jr. He should be the wide receiver 1 in most rookie drafts. Is there a desired landing spot you'd like to see him end up at?
Easy. And we just talked about him, Arizona.
Yeah, I think we're all in consensus there. It's a very cheap elite option to get Kyler Murray.
Here's your new nuke. Here's your new Hopkins.
Exactly.
Right there.
Hey, that being said, nice little segue here. Where should people be taking him in 2024 fantasy football drafts? Is he someone you think can jump right in and be a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, wide receiver 1 out of the gate?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
In terms of where I would take him, redraft. Well, let's go. Dynasty leagues, he's going late, mid to late second. Redraft dynasty. Startup dynasty.
Overall
leagues.
Startup. Yeah.
So that gives you a little bit of perspective there. If I were in a redraft, keep in mind, you're talking to the college fantasy football OG here. So I am a college fantasy guy. I look at the dynasty stuff. I do not look at redraft leagues. I'm sure Jagger May could be much more articulate about that than I was. I'm sure he'll do great on that part. But I would say probably 4th round.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think
I might be off on that. I don't do much redraft.
I think that's fair.
College fantasy guy.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson notoriously, went really late if he was even drafted in a lot of redraft leagues. And then, people kind of overcorrected with Jamar Chase. Kind of think people have come around to the idea of rookie wide receivers breaking onto the scene and having success. We saw Jaden Reed do it last year. We saw Rashee Rice do it last year. We didn't see Quentin Johnston or even Jackson Smith and Jigba for a full year do it, but it is possible.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
All those guys, I think, will be
Lockett's
okay.
on his way. Yeah, Lockett's going.
Exactly.
It's his show now. That was all planned for. He'll be fine.
So this 2024 wide receiver class is, highly touted. I don't think that's a secret. Obviously being led by Marvin Harrison Jr. We talked about quarterbacks going in round 1. We expect there to be 4 there, maybe 5 if Penix sneaks into the back half, get that 5th-year option out of him. How many wide receivers do you expect to go here in the first round? Feel free to name them if it helps you count. But I think everyone's kind of wondering the draft capital for a lot of these guys.
Minimum 4, obviously. It's 4 is a lock. I would say, I'm not sure what the over-under is. Probably 5.5 is what the over-under probably is.
I think that's fair.
That's what I'd set it at. I think that's about right.
I think the question is it going to be 6 or not?
Yeah, is it going to be 6 or not? I think it will.
Okay.
I think you're going to get the top 4, with Thomas being the 4. I'm very comfortable with Thomas as that 4. I was it before, and then he went and dropped a 4.33 at 209. Yeah. The combine. Check that box.
Yeah, that'll do it.
He's locked in. And then, of that next, 5-player, round robin midi tier of Worthy, Mitchell, Ladd, maybe Coleman if you want that XX, even though we ran the 4.61. I think you could see 2 of those based on personal preference slip in, especially because, the Bills and the Chiefs are staring right there at us.
Yep.
And I would think there's 5 and 6. So I'm going to go with 6.
Okay. Now, any of these players, whether they're first rounders or not, are we overvaluing or are we overlooking some of these guys? Should we be making, first of all, you were there at the combine. Talk me through Xavier Worthy's 4.21. What was that like?
I'm glad you asked. If you go to my CF Froton X account, you will see that I have the only, to what I've seen, the only shot of Xavier Worthy's run that has no panning. Okay, so I just gave a straight landscape shot of it. So you just see him running. So he came on last for the wide receivers on the day. He's last. He's Worthy. It goes alphabetically.
Yeah.
So you go and you watch everybody run. And it's like, okay, yeah, these guys are doing great. These guys are running. As soon as Worthy gets up there and he runs his first one, which is a 4.25, everybody in the stadium watching him do it, immediately you could hear there was a rumbling starting.
Yeah.
He just looked different than everybody else.
Okay.
And the reason why is everybody else, the way they run, short, quick steps, just trying to get your feet on the ground and propel. Just step. Worthy was bounding. He doesn't taking steps. He takes leaps when he was running that thing. Like the amount of ground covered per stride. And he's not tall. He looks like he's 6'5" when he's running it because of all the ground. So just the way that he ran it, it was different than anybody else. And you knew it immediately as soon as that first one was 4.25. You knew, oh my God, this guy's special.
Yeah.
Right away. Everybody in Lucas Oil Stadium is probably 15,000 people. It was palpable.
Yeah, I know. I was watching at home on my TV, and I was like, talking with people I was with. I was like, oh yeah, when you run something like that, you're not going to run again. That's good enough. And then it got reported he's going to run again. It was like, all right, here we go. Like,
it was electric.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever will again see something like that.
Yeah,
like
must-watch TV, and we're talking NFL Combine must-watch TV. It's just funny how that went.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Olympics. This has been going on since humans existed. The art of running, and I've never seen anybody do it like that. Obviously, he's not Usain Bolt, but man. I ain't never seen anything. I've never seen anything like it.
So we could see Xavier Worthy slip into the first round or jump into the first round based on that alone. Honestly, if a team, in the back half really wants to get that speed on their roster. Any other concerns at the combine? Specifically, I know a lot of people are kind of talking about Keon Coleman's 4.61. You had mentioned already that 40 time being slow. Troy Franklin, weaving back and forth on the gauntlet drill. Is that enough for teams to shy away, or do you think these guys are going to be fine at the next level?
Okay, so there's a couple things to unpack there. I'll take it one at a time.
Sure.
One, Xavier Worthy, I do want to address this, based on what you're saying. Is he a first rounder? Something I'd like to point out about Worthy is usage. So in 2022, let's go back to freshman year. Freshman year, true breakout, almost 1,000 yards as a true freshman wideout for Texas. And, came right out. There have been very few receivers that have come into college football at that level, at the elite level, who have done it like that as a true freshman in the past decade. Like there's a handful of them. So he dominates. But then year two, Sarkisian comes in. So he didn't have Steve Sarkisian year one. He had Sarkisian year two. That was still the Tom Herman era. So Sarkisian comes in and sees this. And he sees what we all saw. He's like, this guy is a rocket ship. So what does he do? 39% of Xavier Worthy's targets in 2022 were deep targets. That is astounding.
Yeah.
Astounding. 40%, 5 out of every 6 is a 20-plus yard throw downfield. You don't see a lot of that in college. We just personally assure you of that, okay? The problem that happened is they kind of knew he's just going deep. He caught 9 of the 44 targets that he received, 44 deep targets. For perspective, this year, this is 2023, Roma Dunze led the country with 43 deep targets. So he literally, the most deep targets of any receiver the last 2 years was Worthy in 2022. He only caught 9 of them for 21% catch rate. Is some of that on Quinn Ewers airmailing it? Yeah, there's a few of those. After he stacked, some receivers. There's no doubt about that. And that has to do with Quinn Ewers just relying on his arm and not channeling his lower half into his throws. But 2023, that changed. Sarkisian took a look and was like, all right, we're misusing Worthy by just saying you're the fastest human I've ever seen, just run straight. And they cut it down. In fact, they cut his deep target rate in half. He went from 39% to 17.7%. Okay. 44 to 20 targets were deep. So what did he do instead? He started working the intermediate to lower routes. They started giving more manufactured touches. This type of stuff you see from Tank Dell a little bit. Type of stuff you see from the, like Rondale Moore, except for he's just so much more explosive.
Yeah.
Just different. So they've given him the setup touches like, all right, maybe we'll get it to him downfield. We want to get the ball easy into his hands so that he can do things. And they started doing that this year, and it made a big difference. His yak skyrocketed. I want to say he was like 7.5. I don't have that in front of me right now. But it was like 7.5 yak. That's pretty damn good. Went from 17.6 of his ADOT in 22 to 9.9 this year. So, the way that he was used, it allowed us to kind of see a different side of him. And I think he's got the complete game.
I think a lot of people are a little bit concerned about that. You know, he runs this, world record 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine, and everyone immediately goes, "Oh, he's John Ross. That's it. He's John Ross. You know, he's not going to have a good NFL career." But I really like your Tank Dell comp there. 165 pounds is a little concerning, but we're starting to see those kind of size guys succeed at the next level. Manufactured touches, catching these intermediate crossing routes and just going down, getting that yards, getting down the field. Doesn't always have to be, the Randy Moss catch over the guy receiver anymore. Getting away a little bit.
It isn't. Like you're
exactly.
saying. I mean,
exactly.
It's more and more important. The entire 2023 wide receiver class was pretty much small guys, except for Quentin Johnson. And how did that work out? We talked about everyone else is a small guy.
There's still a little hope for him, but yeah, I get what you're saying there.
And Puka's obviously a big guy too, but that was so way down the board. Like he wasn't even mine. But I mean, that's how things are going. So I think if you do the weight thing with him, it's a dangerous game you're playing, giving away explosiveness. But the thing is, we'll go to Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
176. 176 at 6'2".
And he looked it too. I mean, he looks 176. The same way Devontae Smith looks the size he is. I mean, these are skinny receivers. There's no getting around it.
Skinny receiver, and with Franklin, he was running. My comp for him from last year, he's Jalen Hyatt.
Okay.
He's that Jalen Hyatt of this class. Thin, fast, runs straight, has a offense that they're Tez Johnson did so much for Troy Franklin that if you watch enough Oregon like I did this year, you know how awesome Tez Johnson is, and he's Bo Nix's adopted brother. So Nix was pelting Tez Johnson in with those short, quick darts, which is what Bo Nix does. He doesn't throw downfield. He's going to hit you with those quick, short, precise passes. What Tez Johnson was able to do allowed Franklin to be singled up on the outside, and they can just RPO, here's a little play action, and then they know.
Yeah.
Bo Nix never went downfield unless it was planned to go downfield. They manufactured it for him. And he was able to get those great matchups. He's not going to have that ability at the next level. And he's also going to get jammed. And they're going to be able to get right up in his kitchen because he's thin and he's lean and he doesn't have that kind of footwork to do the releases. So I have a lot of skepticism about Troy Franklin. I simply don't about Xavier Worthy. I would rather have Keon Coleman than him. Give me the 4.61 40 for a bully. I can teach him he has a better shot of being Drake London, which is just an absolute, just a savage. I love watching him because I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", I'm 6'3", 205.
I've seen you at the beer dye table. Stellar athlete.
Powerful on the basketball court, like aggressive. Kevin McHale on offense, Billy and Beer on defense. Just it's an animal. So I love watching big receiver play. I want Keon Coleman to get the edge that Drake London has because he's a mean guy. I like it. And I want to see him stuffing people's faces into turf. I think that you had a better shot of that happening than Troy Franklin.
Well, that's why we're having this conversation, because I do think the recency bias, especially with these players, is at its peak right now, post-combine. And we just had a lot of negativity, for some of these players, Keon Coleman, especially with that 4.61. Yeah. Another receiver you mentioned, I just want to end here on the receivers, is Ladd McConkey. He was kind of the star of the Senior Bowl based on following your and other people's content down there. Do you have a comp for Ladd McConkey that can give people an idea of what they can expect at the next level?
Interesting. I've been kicking that around. I'm not a good comp guy.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just sort of focus on what they are. I wish I was better at it. If I had to go with a comp though, because you gotta remember, 4.39, 5'11", 185. He's slight. You look at him in person, like, okay, I get it. But just his ability to snap off routes, it's not hard to see. You don't have to be a genius to watch Ladd McConkey's film and say, oh my God, look at the separation this guy generates. How sharp and clean, straight angled his cuts are. You see him, setting him up, and he's, he'll throw the shoulder fake, throw a head fake. He's always kind of, working. Just a little bit of and it's not much. Sometimes just a little shoulder. It's just a little inside, fake step. And his nuance is so clean. I would say Ricky Prohl.
Okay.
I would go Ricky Prohl for him, and for Pearsall, which is another, I think they're both awesome, and they both Pearsall.
A little bit of a sleeper for some people, but
I'm
you're starting
gonna
to see
give
his name.
Wild comp for Ricky Pearsall in terms of his hands, body control, ability to make spectacular catches. It's a lofty comp, and it's not maybe the whole thing. It's an old one, but watch Chris Carter, the way that some of the catches he would make in his hands.
That's quite the name drop.
Hands were the best hands in history, ever.
Yeah.
And I look at Pearsall and I can't help but think he does the body control stuff where he's going one direction and he's snapping his entire body back and catching. It's Chris Carter. He's got hands like that. He's got that body control. So that's one comp we'll go with there for Pearsall.
Yeah, we'll have to keep a name.
Out of my skis. I'm over my skis on that one.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think people need to recognize Ricky Pearsall. His name has been swirling around, especially on social media. Maybe the people that aren't paying as much attention as others need to get that name, in the back of their head, especially when the NFL draft rolls around. We'll move here to the running back position, which is very interesting. We have a very star-studded free agent running back class that is going to find their homes probably next week, the next 2 weeks or so. I think it's fair to say that there's a plentiful group of rookies, maybe not star-studded, but plentiful. And I think if you asked everyone before the combine, before the Senior Bowl, before the season, you might have player X as your RB1. Mid-season, you might have a different player. You might have a different player now. Who is your RB1, before we know where they end up? Everything considered, their careers, combine, Senior Bowl, everything you want to factor in here. Who would be your RB1 regardless of landing spot?
My top 3 running backs for this class.
3 would be great, yeah.
Have been cemented since last summer. They haven't moved. Doesn't matter if I went to the combine. Doesn't matter if I went to the Senior Bowl. Everything that I had seen on tape checked out already. And these are guys that weren't the biggest deals. They weren't the Trevion Hendersons, who were supposed to be in this class. This is, and it's, in particular order, I do have I flip on them, but these have been my 3 guys since preseason. Trey Benson, Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd.
Okay.
All 3 of them have been my guys. I will put Jonathan Brooks as RB4 because he did earn that. I hadn't seen any of him preseason. No way. There's no way anyone can know Jonathan Brooks to be Jonathan Brooks this season after Rashawn and Bijan took just about every single snap for Texas in 2022. What are you supposed to do? How do you know? Yeah. So I didn't have him in my top, but he belongs there, especially after he weighed in 10 pounds heavy. He was listed at 207, comes in at 217 at the combine. That's the type of stuff that gets me excited. And that's the type of stuff that Marshawn Lloyd did. He was listed at right around there, 205, 207. He comes in at 218.
Yeah.
And then runs a 4.41.
Yeah, a lot of guys are in the 4.4s, 4.5s.
Yeah, he was right just a tick over 4.4. And you had 4.39 for Benson, and you had
4.38, I think was right. Yeah.
For Jalen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jalen Wright. And I'll start with Jalen.
Yeah.
My favorite of the 3, my favorite call of the 3, because sorry about the chair. Yeah, this is my old chair. I'm ready to toss this thing out. I beat the heck out of this all season.
It's all good.
When I moved, it's falling apart. I'm ready to get rid of it. The Jalen Wright was behind Jabari Small. He's like the 1B to Jabari Small's 1A. And I watched a ton in the offseason doing my stuff in my prep. And every time I watched Tennessee, I didn't get it. It's like, what am I not? Why is Jabari Small getting carries over Jalen Wright? Every time Jalen Wright's touching the ball in 2022, he's going yard. Nuclear. I mean, he has that ability to hit the home runs, and he's 210. He's not a $195. He's 210 pounds. And if you watch the way he runs, I mean, you're gonna get the refrains where Trey Benson's vision does need work. Fair, totally problem with 4.39. I don't have that same concern with Jalen Wright. I know he's fast. I know he can hit home runs.
Yeah.
He's got a nice little slide step. He varies his tempo through the hole in a way that is kind of advanced, I would say, and certainly you're not seeing a lot of that from this class in particular. But and then with Marshawn Lloyd, he was at South Carolina. Blows out his knee freshman year. Like, doesn't just blow; it's spectacular blowout. Same thing with Trey Benson. Benson had a multiple ACL too.
Oh, I didn't know
ACL,
that. Actually.
MCL.
Okay.
Yeah, his freshman year at Oregon. He was at Oregon before he went to Florida State. So both of those guys had bad knees early in their career. And it's why you didn't hear about them up until 2022, 2023. And even Lloyd, like, he was a borderline five-star, mega recruit. Always had that potential. Gets to USC, but like South Carolina, they just didn't. It was a rotation. That's just how Beamer runs things. Goes over to USC, and Lincoln Riley, I mean, bless his heart. If you transfer to USC and he tells you you're going to be the guy, you're going to be the guy. And he went for 7.1 yards per carry. I think he had 115 carries. Didn't have a lot. But he's ripping it when he gets a chance. And his ability to catch the ball, we just didn't see in the SEC. They just didn't do that for him. Number one in the country. All of FBS, not the Power 5. All of them. 17.2 yards per catch. I mean, phenomenal. Flexing out wide 10% of the time. Okay, that isn't something. All right. So in college, there's the wide rate is something I look at from a fantasy perspective a lot, because the tight ends and the running backs, who are the best, they go out wide. Jack Westover, the Dulciches, from the past. Obviously, Pitts, Bowers, those guys, they all line up wide to take advantage of that outside because they can win one-on-one. And that's what they would do with Marshawn Lloyd. Lincoln Riley isn't going to throw him out there 10% of the time, on the boundary if he can't get the job done. And if you look at his tape, he did it. Like, the catches are there, the difficulty, and then he did it at the Senior Bowl. All three of those guys are going to be good running backs. And I understand why you're saying, oh, everybody's beating on this running back class. Of course they are. Because no offense, most of the people who are talking about these guys, especially the ones you're watching on YouTube, that are doing the dynasty things, they don't know anything about these players. I watch them. I need to know where these guys are going in dynasty. They know nothing. So be careful where you're getting your information, and just know the world that we live in right now, everybody's got an opinion. There's so much information overload. You have to remember that just because somebody tells you something doesn't mean you should listen to them, and you should demand facts and context and evidence for everybody's opinions that gives one. You should be able to have off the cuff, as I'm doing, ripping these things. And if you aren't, then you shouldn't be listening to them.
Yeah, I do think it's important to establish your own rankings, especially, and that's anything in fantasy football. You want to listen to and look at ranks and read and watch things, but you should always establish your own rankings, because at the end of the day, it's your team. You want to manage your guys, and you want to go get your guys with your draft picks. So, adding waiver wires and stuff too. Absolutely.
Do your own research and believe in yourself and trust your gut, because then you're going to feel good about doing it. You don't feel the same about just taking someone else's opinion. You do it, and you'll find that you're going to have success, and you're going to have even more success if you do C2C or college fantasy football. If you just join one league, you'll be amazed at how much you absorb just by having it, just by having a team. It doesn't matter how much you put into it. You're going to absorb a ton of information, and it's going to help you when it's time for draft.
Absolutely. So with this running back class, we had Audric Estime run a 4.7. Isaac Guerendo came onto the scene, ran a 4.33. We had guys like Blake Corum come in at 5.7. Braylon Allen didn't do anything at the combine. There's still a lot to figure out here, but if you could just, take this whole class, and think of everyone that you've watched, everything you've researched, analyzed, whatever, give me one sleeper people should, maybe they haven't heard enough about, because now everyone knows who Isaac Guerendo is. He ran the fast 40. Is there someone nobody's talking about that you think could maybe be an Isaiah Pacheco or something at the next level that might go day 3 that could be a fantasy asset?
Sure. A couple guys I like. Kamani Vidal. Okay. Troy led the nation in rushing last year. is 5'8", like 215. He's a little bowling ball, but he has incredible contact balance for that sort of a frame. Like you see him take a shot, and, 1 foot on the ground, one hand, spinning, standing up. Really impressive contact balance. And he's a G5 running back. He's down the trough. But you saw the way he tested.
Right.
I mean, he's I don't have it in front of me, but like in terms of his RAS, he was a 90 plus percentile athlete from a kid who's coming from Troy University, so he went out and to his incredible credit, I did not expect Kamani Vidal to run a 4.46 with his body dimensions. You don't see those squat guys who are powerful like that run that well.
Right.
So the fact that he did, I mean, you just look at it and just the rest of his stuff, 1.53, 10-yard split, real good. 37.5-inch vert. The guy's 215 at 5'8". 10-foot broad, fine. 4.15, 20-yard shuttle. 701's 3-cone. I mean, all of it across the board. All his testing was really good. And when you put it together on tape with a guy like that performed on the field, I see that. I'll use this sort of a rookie comp from a few years back, and he isn't as relevant today because, there's a very talented running back ahead of him, but I think he could be the same kind of an impact as former Sun Belt stud for Louisiana Raging Cajuns, Elijah Mitchell. That's what you're looking at here with Kamani Vidal. So I'll throw out the Mitchell comp in terms of effectiveness and being a Sun Belt running back who has the ability to contribute at the NFL level. I'll also throw out one more, Michael Wiley. Dr. Wiley of Mega Man fame. Shooting plasma balls. Love Michael Wiley. Thing about him, too, is he's down because he was banged up this year. He's hurt the whole season. Ceded a lot of his interior work to Jonah Coleman, who is kind of built like Vidal, just a punishing back. But Wiley, one of the truly great receiving backs in this class in 2022, 4.7 yards after contact average. That's ridiculous.
It's not nothing. Yeah.
Oh, it's as good as you're going to find.
Yeah.
That's elitely top 0.1% of 1%. You aren't going to find any guys doing that. 93.2 rush grade, according to PFF in 22. I mean, that's ridiculous. You throw in his ability to catch the ball. I mean, 2.2 yards per route run in 2022. That's top 5. I mean, everything he's doing 2 years ago on a per carry basis was elite. Bijan-esque missed tackle, like a 45% missed tackle rate forced. Just insane. He gets banged up this year, and he can't do as much of the interior work. Is pigeonholed to doing just a straight up satellite back sort of a role because he's grinding his way out trying to play. He knows his last season, and he's got an Arizona team that he's been there his whole career, and they sucked for years. Jed Fish comes in and finally turns it around after Kevin Sumlin, poured a can of gas on the program. He wanted to be part of that team that was awesome this year. It was an awesome Arizona team, and they're probably my favorite for the Big 12 coming in this year. So Michael Wiley, to be able to get him extreme. I mean, both of them are going, I would assume, almost undrafted. I think Vidal's probably like a 5th round rookie pick. Wiley's undrafted. There's 2 for you.
Yeah, but you know what? You take those, dart throws really in the 4th round. You're not really, in my opinion, throwing a dart at someone that, oh man, everyone's going to want this 4th rounder. You're really trying to get those guys that you're going to get the best bang for your buck. You're probably going to cut those guys or have them on your taxi regardless anyway. That's where you get the Puka Nakuas who, for generally speaking, didn't really go in the top 3 rounds of most rookie drafts last year.
I didn't see him anywhere going top 3.
Yep. Out of BYU, 5th rounder. Tight ends, we'll wrap up here. Brock Bowers. We all know who Brock Bowers is. We've heard the name. Recency bias is a very real thing in fantasy football. We saw Kyle Pitts go very, very high, top 10 a couple years ago. Hasn't really panned out. Do you have the same concerns with Brock Bowers, or is he matchup or really landing spot proof?
They're so different.
Yeah.
So different. Like, you gotta remember with Pitts. Pitts is 6'6". It's a monster.
Yeah.
He's huge. He's I've seen all these guys in person. Like, Pitts looks more like Jelani Woods, who
Colts
Jelani Woods
end,
for Indianapolis
beast.
looks like.
I think he's actually 6'9".
He looks like the Predator. He looks like the Predator. He's what he looks like in real life. He's the freakiest guy I think I've seen in the last 3 years. I think it's Jelani Woods. So put that in perspective. Kyle Pitts is closer than he is to Bowers.
Mm-hmm.
Bowers is 6'3", 235.
Yeah.
He's not.
I'm sure everyone
6'6",
saw the picture.
260. You know,
there's a picture out there of Brock Bowers next to Gronk, and they don't even look like they play the same sport, let alone have the same position.
Well, Gronk was a super heavyweight. He's 270.
Yeah.
He still is 270. I mean, that's a super heavyweight. And what made him different is the same sort of thing with Pitts. He's so big, but so agile for that. And, Gronk was more physical, bigger, wider than Pitts. But Pitts is huge. With Bowers, it's not that. It's not the freakish dimensions. It's not that length. It's not the ability to, stretch outside his frame. Be a Y, be whatever you want. It's the speed, agility, athleticism, ball tracking, and contact balance.
Yeah, the yards after the catch is what gets me going. I can't wait to see him at the next level.
Exactly. Like, that's what makes him different, is just the athleticism for his size and his, what he does. He just doesn't move like somebody that's a tight end. He just doesn't move that way. It does concern me that he's not the typical, had the length, the 6'5", the Dalton Kincaid type dimensions, where I could say,
260.
all right, yes, he's going to play. He's going to be on the down all the time. Like, Brock Bowers isn't going to be down blocking too much. He's going to get cleaned out.
Yeah.
So these are the things that I sort of look at. I'm like, all right, well, they're not getting him to block. It's fine. He's going to be moved all over the place is what I see. I just see like that, a mega H-back, like, evolved.
Yeah.
So as long as he can get somebody who's creative enough to use him the right way, he'll be fine. I think that'll be fine. But there is concern in a way that I didn't have about Pitts or Kincaid because of his dimensions and how that could, affect his ability to, when he's covered, make those contested catches, be able to stretch and have that extra length. So
and there's,
but I like him a lot.
There's some people that want to, ultimately vault him as the tight end 1 for dynasty purposes. I obviously don't think we're there yet. Got to pump the brakes. But we saw someone who had immense success, who now has multiple Super Bowls. Travis Kelce, again, 6'5", 250. Brock Bowers is not that. So, we'll see where he ends up. We'll see how he, plays at the next level. Very excited, but I do think there are other positions, other players you want to be considering before him, unless you play in perhaps a tight end premium league for fantasy football. Eric Froton, we are going to wrap up here. Talking about college fantasy football. You mentioned it earlier here. Again, you are the lead college analyst for NBC Sports and RotoWorld, but you've been playing college fantasy football. Talk to me about that, why people should be playing it more, and where do you play your college fantasy football?
Well, there's only one place to play college fantasy football, and that is, as you know, Colin, Fantrax. So myself and the entire community are indebted to Fantrax. I can't thank you enough. Anything I can ever do for Fantrax, I'm there. I'll be giving Jordan a call next week to have a chat about it. And I just, in terms of college fantasy football, what got me 24 years ago when I selected Luke Staley, the immortal running back for BYU, it's my first ever college fantasy football draft selection, is the volume. It's an onslaught every Saturday.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea what you're missing, right? The creativity, the different offenses, the fact that, what is in the NFL? Are there secrets? Are there what is a sleeper to the NFL? What does that even mean anymore to me?
Yeah.
I feel like it's just been bastardized, that term. You want to go out and you want to go out and dig. You want to do research and get paid.
There's a little bit more than 32 teams in college.
There's a little bit more than there's 134. But the point is, there are nuggets of gold that you can uncover. Real gold that nobody else gets. You can have your own way of thinking. There's no one way. There's no, there's, you do this and you do that. You've got 30 spots. You got 30 roster spots. You've got 30 rounds. You're starting 2 quarterbacks, starting 2 tight ends. You've got a lot of work to do in that roster construction, and it can go any way you want.
Mm-hmm.
Any way you want to go. You want to take 3 quarterbacks in a row? It'd be stupid, but you can do it. The creativity.
Yeah.
The ability to find edges. It's there. And if you put the work in, you'll get it. You can actually get edges. You just don't get it that way in the NFL. And when it comes time to actually watching it, okay, yeah, you guys have the 1 o'clock games. Hey, it's a good solid, what do you get, 8 games maybe? What's an average age? Is there 10 games maybe?
Yeah, a couple, 6 to 8 games in the 1 o'clock.
6 to 8 games. That's a nice little
3
slate.
in the 4 o'clock, yeah.
You get 3 in the 4 o'clock. Then you get your 1 game at night. Congratulations, everyone. You take what they give you. You have this limited slate. And if that Sunday night game stinks, oh, well, too bad. And often those Monday and those, especially the Thursday night games, they stink. Oh, what happens in college? Oh, well, one of these games stinks. Oh, there's 20 others in that time slot that you can go and you can watch. And there's all different types of styles. And you're going to have one of your guys playing. And there's going to be somebody that you're going to be playing against. It's going to be playing in one of those games. There is no shortage of entertainment, of games, of things to watch, of things to be aware of things to bet on in college football. Why accept 12, 13, 15 games when you can have 50 or 60 games each week? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. All week long once November hits. All week long.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best bang for the buck fantasy entertainment medium that there is in the world. You'll love it. If you love NFL football and you put a little effort into this and just give it a look, you're going to love it because it gives you options. You can watch whatever you want. You aren't being told what to watch. I love the freedom of it.
Yeah, I appreciate, you giving people some insight to college fantasy football, obviously promoting Fantrax. Huge thank you there. Why not take it a step further? We're not telling you not to play NFL fantasy football, but take it a step further. If you're in the dynasty, why not get a look at these college guys a couple years out and start playing college fantasy football? No better place to play than Fantrax. Eric Froton, I appreciate you coming on here. Enjoy the draft, enjoy everything, leading up to it. I know you've put in a ton of work, this college football season, looking at all these guys. I appreciate you coming on today. Where can everyone find your work?
You can find me at NBC Sports, RotoWorld, and obviously on Twitter X, as you see on the screen, CF Froton. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and I hope that you have an enjoyable draft.
All right, everyone. Get those sleepers that Eric dropped here today. Play college fantasy football on Fantrax, and have a good weekend. Take care.